Hello there, this is Mr. D. This is stage 2 of Disaster Ministry Honor. Let's change our screen to the document dealing with this section. As you can see, this is stage 2 of our disaster ministry. And it is going to tell us about some of the disasters that we have out there and what we might want to watch for. And remember that you should be using a notepad and you should be writing all down any of the notes dealing with these different kinds of disasters so you can fill it into your worksheet. And the worksheet has sections for it. And if you would have printed it out, then you could write in the worksheet and then turn around and write it back in. This section starts off. Explain the type of damage most likely to occur to homes and individuals for each of the following major types of disaster. Well, first of all, you probably need to know what the disasters are. Natural disasters come in many forms. In several cases, one disaster causes another disaster, such as a hurricane causing flooding. All disasters can potentially lead to loss of access to utilities like electricity, with resulting discomfort and costs. Other inconvenience may be cell phones. Oh, heaven forbid, let's not lose our cell phones. And cell phone reception, internet coverage, and local media. Loss of access or overloading of emergency services if the roads are blocked and firefighters may not be able to reach that fire and police may not be able to keep it in order. Disasters can cause that. The first type of disaster that you may encounter, I know here in California, we don't really get a chance to enjoy hurricanes, but hurricanes is direct wind and water damage occurring. The pounding of water, flying of materials being moved from one place to another can cause other types of problems. Flooding, damaged buildings, roads, and other infrastructure. Down trees, causing damage to property, loss of power, blocked roads, etc. Breakdown in law and order in several cases, like rioting and stuff like that. Hurricanes can also become intense and cause more damage through development as a typhoon or a cyclone. The internet refers to a cyclone as a tropical storm, which is characterized by a large or low pressure center and numerous thunderstorms that produce strong winds and heavy rains. Tropical cyclones feed on the heat release when moist air rises, resulting in condensations of water vapor contained in moist air. Tropical cyclones originate in a doldrum near the equator, about 10 degrees away from it. Tropical cyclones are called either hurricanes or typhoons, depending on where they originate. The Pathfinder reference library on these type of hurricanes could be found in Wikipedia, but I'm going to share a few types of hurricanes with you that I found on other pieces of information. Hurricane Dean is one hurricane, and it says it was 15 countries. It was felt by 15 countries. The path through Caribbean Sea claimed 42 lives. Hurricanes first blushed the Lesser Antilles on August 17, 2007. And as it passed through the interior of the Caribbean, its outer rain bands swept over the greater Antilles, sorry about that spelling. It passed Jamaica as a Category 4 hurricane and strengthened to a Category 5 storm as it made landfall on Mexico. A second landfall on August 22 it hit after the 21st was less devastating. An address responded to Hurricane Dean throughout the affected area, providing, among other things, food, blankets, bedding, cleanup supplies, boots, raincoats, flashlights. ADRA was in charge of aid distribution and victim registration in Jamaica. Typhoon Duran. Well, that's an interesting name. Duran first made landfall in the Philippines in November 2006, packing a strong wind and heavy rains that caused mudslides near Mayan volcano. After causing massive damage in the Philippines, it excited into the South China Sea and weakened slightly before managing to reorganize and re-strengthen into a typhoon shortly before its second landfall. This time in Vietnam near Tainan, causing further damage of more than $400 million. What we're going to do is, I'm not going to read every one of these, but they are listed in the internet. This is not required information. All you're supposed to do is just kind of have an idea what they are. The hurricane. And again, the hurricane is just very simply direct winds and water damage that are concerned that make hurricanes. The pounding of the water, the flying of the materials, being moved from one place to another, causing major problems. So, what was the next one they had listed I found? It was Hurricane Rita. Hurricane Rita, I remember that one. Hurricane Rita was the fourth most intense Atlantic hurricane ever recorded and the most intense tropical cyclone ever observed in the Gulf of Mexico. Rita caused $11.3 billion in damage. Then there was Typhoon Russia. Russia was the 10th typhoon of 2002, Pacific typhoon season. Russia brought heavy rains and flooding to the South Korea, amounting to 36 inches in some areas. 113 people were killed in the country, making it one of the deadliest typhoons to hit South Korea. Typhoon Utor. I hope I said that right. Utor. Not being from that country, it's kind of hard to say some of these words. Typhoon Utor, also called Sinec, was a deadly typhoon which struck the Philippines about 2 weeks after Typhoon Duran, causing significant devastation in the country. Typhoon Utor killed 30 people and left another 8 missing throughout the Philippines. A total of 9,553 homes were destroyed and 33,943 were damaged, replacing 56,313 people. That's a pretty bad hurricane. Well, I'm sure there's more hurricanes out there on the internet, but I also want to cover a few other types of disasters. Tornadoes. A tornado is a violent, dangerous, rotating column of air, which is in contrast with both the surface of the earth and the cumulus clouds, or in rare cases, the base of the cumulus clouds. Tornadoes come in many sizes, but are typically in the form of a visible condensation funnel, whose narrow end touches the earth and is often encircled by a cloud of debris and dust. Now, I've seen tornadoes. When I was in the Air Force, the station in Texas, You see a lot of those guys. I mean, they pop up anywhere. They could be going down the road and all of a sudden pop right over you. It's a amazing thing to see 10, 12 tornadoes whirling around you. Tornadoes damage and destroying buildings, trees, and sometimes infrastructures like power lines. People and cars may be taken away by the storm. Generally, damage is localized and the actual storm event short-lived. Rebuilding shattered lives takes much longer. Note that the Wikipedia and the Honor Library that tornadoes have been observed on every continent except Antarctica. They occasionally occur in South, Central, and Eastern Asia, the Philippines, East Central South America, Southern Africa, Northwestern and Southwestern Europe, the Western and the Southeastern Australia and New Zealand. They occur everywhere, it looks like. But this honor told to me that ADRA was not part of helping with damaged areas by tornadoes because they occurred mostly in North America, and ADRA does not support our area. Maybe that is a good question we as Pathfinders should ask, is why not North America? We have disaster like the rest of the world. Then we have floods. Oh my goodness, floods. Floods can be really bad. Floods can destroy homes and businesses and may cause loss of life. Flooding can cause landslides, damage roads, and make drinking water unsafe. The rural areas of flood may destroy crops. The Wikipedia or internet states that floods is an overflow or accumulation of an expansion of water that submerges land. In the sense of flowing water, the word may also be applied to the inflow of the tide. Flooding may result from a volume of water within the body of the water, such as a river or a lake, which overflows or breaks leaves, with the results that some of the water escapes its normal boundaries. While the size of the lake or the other body of water will vary with seasonal changes in the precipitation and the snowmelt, it is not significant flood unless such escape of water endangers the land around used by the man-like village, city, or other inhabited areas. When I was 18, I lived down in the coast in an area called Dana Point. They didn't have the harbor like they have now and all the water control. And there was a storm in the 60s that took out most of the Pacific Coast Highway. And there was a small creek that ran down into that part of the beach. And it got so overwhelming that it was like an ocean river, and there was a mobile park there, and it took out the mobile park because it went over its barriers like a dike. So flooding can really cause a lot of damage. It moved the dirt from one part of the ocean to the other part of the ocean, destroyed what they used to call surfing in that area. And it just changed those people's lives. Some of the listings they had on flooding occurred in Guyana. It's like they said, in 2005, ADRA provided portable water, food, and medicine to the survivors of the flood. 2008, Indian floods. That was affecting Kosi Basin in Bihar. Sorry about that. And adjourning Nepal. Then there was the 2000 African flood. And I know you can replay this video over if you want to take more notes. I'm going to kind of not say every word to each section. And you can come back and you can look at the video and get this information if you want. Summer 2007, United Kingdom flood. The summer 2007 United Kingdom flood occurred across many parts of Britain, with the worst effect area being Yorkshire, including Sheffield and Hull in June, and large areas of the Midlands. 2007, Hunter flood inundated large areas of the city of Maitland and the city of Newcastle, Australia in June 2007, claimed 11 lives and forced the evacuation of 4,000 people into central Maitland. And the January 2007 Jakarta flood affected and killed 80 people. And in December 2006 and January 2007, the flooding in Malaysia, that flooding, let's see here, is considered to be the worst in 100 years in that area, resulting in evacuation of over 100,000 people in the worst hit city of Johor at its peak. Now, there's another type of disaster we have listed called earthquakes. Now, California, we know earthquakes in California. That is what California is always called, the earthquake country. You know, we're going to fall off into the ocean. Well, that's not going to happen. But you could be somewhere and it could be a very highly earthquake area and your house shakes a lot and stuff like that. You could have similar effects that has happened in other parts of the world. An earthquake, also known as a tremor, is a result of sudden release of energy in the Earth's crust that creates seismic waves. At the Earth's surface, earthquakes manifest themselves by shaking and sometimes displacing the ground. Strong earthquakes often cause structural damage to buildings and other structures like bridges and dams. Buildings collapse may cause injuries or loss of life. Damage to gas lines may cause fires, while damage to water lines may make fighting the fire difficult. Some of you may remember the earthquake in San Francisco, I think 10, 20 years ago. I can't even remember exactly without looking up on the internet. And earthquakes like Long Beach and others we've had in California have left the area quite a mess. A lot of repairing, a lot of freeways, a lot of that. The one I haven't heard much about was, I don't want to say it had to have been 19, let's say, I graduated 71. I think it was around 1971. They had an earthquake in Los Angeles. And that earthquake, I was on my way through, and everything was fine until he hit Los Angeles and all this traffic. And like a young whippersnapper, I get to run around all of these cars and go around the fast lane, you know, all the things we shouldn't do as young people. And I started to do that, and I noticed that part of the freeway was missing. Then I noticed more of the freeway was missing. That had a major earthquake that took out hospitals, buildings, and freeways all the way through Los Angeles. It happened in a matter of minutes. I mean, I could have been on one of those bridges at the time. I mean, I was there, but I wasn't on the bridge, thanks to God. God is amazing. He always seems to know everything that's going to happen to us. And hopefully we listen and we pay attention. And I believe things are better when we do. Another type of disaster, wildfires. Wildfires become a big concern when they are getting near homes and other structures. People may lose their homes and businesses, but more people will be displaced, needing temporary housing. Smoke may also be a health concern. Fires is where I have problems. Where I live up in the mountains, fires is common. There's been at least 3 or 4 major fires in the last 20 years up on the mountain where I've had to stop and try to protect my home by hoses and standing out there and spraying and hoping to God that the fire doesn't come this way and that you have enough water on the house when I should have probably been gone. but I was going to lose my house. And I don't see anything wrong with us fighting to the last minute. Fires are bad, but they can be prevented if we're careful and we make sure we don't throw stuff out that causes fire. And we pray that the people that do it will stop. But fires is another disaster. Volcanoes is not really listed on your list, and you'll see it. I have it here on my worksheet. I know I do not have this one listed on my worksheet, but this honor did not think, but they did not think that this honor was that important. I do. Another honor that is not available shows it believes it should be. I think they're miswording. Volcanoes are important, but you have to live near it. A volcano is an opening, a rupture in the planet's surface or crust, which allows hot magma, ash, gases to escape into the surface. Volcanoes are generally found where tectonic plates are diverging or converging. And I'm not a scientist, I couldn't tell you what that means, but I guess something's happening down below. A mid-oceanic ridge, for example, in the mid-Atlantic ridge, has an example of volcanoes caused by the diverged tectonic plates pulling apart. The Pacific Ring of Fire has an example of volcanoes caused by convection tectonic plates coming together. One thing I know about volcanoes is they kill people, lots of people. They affect the land tremendous. I did not post any real-time videos from the internet in this honor, which would have made it longer. But one of the biggies that happened while I was, I think, in my 20s was Mount Helen up in Montana. It took out a lot. I heard it was documented that the ash that fell in New York, and I'm not sure how deep it was, but it was pretty deep, fell from the Montana fire, a volcano. Now, realize Montana is not exactly next door to New York. Montana is like on the other side of the United States, but it went up in the air, that much ash, and covered the United States. Imagine all the respiratory problems that occurred in the 70s, all the businesses that were affected. I had a friend that had a business up there, and he said when it occurred, he wasn't right where the volcano was, but when it occurred, he lost his business because it went into all of his electronics, his air conditioning units. I don't know exactly what he had. I think he had a restaurant, and destroyed all of his equipment because the ash just destroyed it. So volcanoes can do a lot more than just kill people on the spot. They can affect all of the surroundings and the crops and people's health a lot further than just by the volcano. Now, these are disasters that are major disasters. I know the book that you're going to read about in step 7 is going to discuss a lot more potential disasters. And I think you should take note because there's disasters that you would never consider to be disasters that you will find in that book. So at this time, I'm going to close this video and I am going to wish you the best. Take and fill in the boxes on the worksheet on section 2, stage 2. And you'll notice there's a section there on a summary of what I talked about, on hurricanes, on tornadoes, on fires. And I'd like you to fill in what you understand them to be. I don't expect you to give me a statistical data layout of all of the so-called hurricanes, of all the so-called tornadoes or floods. I want you to understand what they are and what they can do to you if you ever are encountering one. See you at stage 3. Bye. Goodbye again.